Hey, what's up YouTube, and welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. Today, I'm going to be going over which units are the best to crown. By now, most of you collected an item called the Crown of Insight. The Crown of Insight basically is an ascension material that takes your final talent to the last level. These crowns boost your last talent's level scaling higher than any other upgrade amount. These crowns are extremely rare and only come out during every few or so event patches. And this leads us towards a lingering question. Which units are the best to crown? Now obviously, it should be said these should be used on the units you find most enjoyable and plan on playing throughout your Genshin Impact career, but it's not always so black and white. It depends on which elemental skills or ultimates your characters use the most or take advantage of. First, let's understand what it's going to take to crown a unit. So under the Talents tab, you click on one of your abilities that you wish to crown. The first cost right out the gate is 700k Mora. Next, it's going to be 16 gold books. Then it's going to cost 12 3-tier level mob drops, 2 weekly boss materials, and finally, 1 Crown of Insight. As most of you can see, it is not easy crowning a material. Aside from the crown, it's going to take a lot of resources just to put all this investment into a single talent. Now let's say we got the money question out of the way. The next question is, which talent do you want to crown to give your account the highest power spike? This leads me to my advice for you guys. You're going to want to upgrade your main DPS's main sources of damage. And my best advice is to only crown the units who are usually top tier. If you crown units that are usually 4-star or below, their damage is not going to keep up with the 5-star DPSs even if you do crown them. So say for Ningguang or Razor mains, you're probably going to exchange your DPS for someone stronger down the line, and in turn, you can't get your crown material back and it will be wasted. This is also true if you're considering switching mains in the future to a more meta or high damage dealer. I'm going to be ranking the best talents to upgrade with a high, medium, low priority list. The high level priority is the priority that if you plan to upgrade your character, this is the talent you should upgrade first. The medium level priority is the priority you want to level up after you leveled up your high priority targets. And the low priority isn't really recommended for meta purposes and mostly for your own enjoyment. First, to start off the list, we're going to go with my favorite DPS, Xiao. The bulk of Xiao's DPS damage comes from his AoE plunge attack. And for me, that's going to be a high level priority if you main Xiao. Next, we have Xiao's normal attacks, and for me that's going to be a medium priority because Xiao's normal attacks can also help you boost Xiao's plunge attack damage. Finally, we got Xiao's E-skill. I think Xiao's E-skill is a low priority talent to upgrade because the cooldown is so long and you only get 2 charges that you can use in quick succession. For me, this ability does not provide enough DPS output where it would be in a position to crown. Now if you own a C6 Xiao, this is going to be entirely different. Xiao's E-skill will be a high priority talent to crown because he can now dash so frequently and the DPS output would be entirely different. Next in the list, and all of our favorite Coco Goat, Ganyu. Ganyu is an extremely powerful main DPS and widely regarded as the best DPS in Genshin Impact. Most of her damage comes from her normal attacks, so therefore, according to my tier list, Ganyu's normal attacks is a high level priority to upgrade. Her ultimate ability and elemental skill do not make up most of Ganyu's kit, so for me, these abilities are ranked at a low priority. Next, let's get into our second cryo unit, Ayaka. Ayaka's burst is extremely overpowered, and you should crown it immediately. The scalings are massive, and for me, it's a high priority skill to upgrade. Her normal attacks and elemental skills do not make up most of her kit and most of her damage, so for me, these are low priority talents to upgrade. Next, we got the Pyro DPS HocADoo. There are two builds of HocADoo that I'm going to focus on. The normal casual build of HocADoo, which is of a normal DPS. Her normal attacks would be a high priority. Her elemental skill would also be a high priority. And her burst ultimate would not be a high priority, it'd be a low priority. Now, if you want to build your HocADoo into a one-shotting HocADoo, I would crown her ultimate ability because it's your one-shotting ability. So therefore, HocADoo's last ability would be a high priority if you're building her in a one-shot build. Next, I'm going to get into Tartaglia. The bulk of Tartaglia's damage comes from being in his melee stance, so for me, his melee stance deserves a high priority in terms of talents to crown. Next, his damage mostly comes from his burst ability, so that'd be a medium priority to crown. And finally, his normal attacks do not provide much DPS output, so I would say they are a low priority to crown. Next, we got Ball, or the Raiding Shogun. For me, Ball is half a support and half a DPS, so I thought I'd just shove her into the DPS category anyways. Getting back on topic, Raiden's ultimate ability is the best ability to crown with a high level priority. Her elemental skill and her normal attacks are both low priority talents to upgrade, but you can level them up anyways for the minimum amount of DPS gain. Next, we're going to get into one of Ball's best partners, Eula. For Eula's normal attacks, if you rely on her normal attacks a lot, they are a high level priority. But if you don't rely on normal attacks as much, they should be a low level priority and you shouldn't really consider upgrading them at all. Her E skill is also a low level priority, and for Eula's E skill, I recommend this talent as a low level priority. Finally, we'll get into Eula's ultimate ability. In my opinion, Eula's ultimate ability should be crowned by everyone if you own Eula. This amps up her damage from her amazing burst and her hold E skill if you have 2 Grimoire stacks. And as our final character, I choose Diluc. I think Diluc, as of recently, has fallen quite under the recent meta, seeing that he has been power crept from being one of the first units ever released in the game. But if you were to pull Diluc and to build him, I'd say his E skill would be a high level priority, his burst skill would be a medium level priority, and his normal skill would be a low level priority. But I would recommend not building Diluc and mostly just waiting for a more meta unit to come your way. That about wraps it up for the main DPS talents to crown. Next, I'm going to go into supports. Now I want you guys to know, crowning your main DPS's main sources of damage typically gives you more damage output than that of your supports. The first support unit I have in mind is Bennett. I think Bennett's burst is a high level priority to upgrade after you upgrade your DPS's main sources of damage. Next, his elemental skill and his normal attacks are low priority talents to upgrade with a crown. Next, I'm moving on to Xiangling. I think Xiangling's burst ability is a great ability to crown with a high level priority, but only if she is your main source of damage in a child Xiangling team comp or child Qingqiu national team. Her normal attacks are not high level priority, they're probably a low priority because she is not doing enough damage with the normal attacks, and Goba is probably not a high priority either. She is probably a low priority because of his limited attack range. Next, we're going to talk about Xingqiu. Xingqiu's normal attacks are pretty lackluster in terms of DPS damage and receives a low priority in terms to upgrade. Xingqiu's elemental skill is a medium priority, but if you're using him to one-shot, which his elemental skill surprisingly has a high scaling, this would be a high level priority. Xingqiu's ultimate ability is at a medium level priority, but if he is your main source of damage, this would be a high level priority. And finally, as my last meta support character, I'm going to be talking about Zhongli. Crowning Zhongli's ultimate ability provides less damage than if you were to crown your main DPS's ability. His shield, although is amazing, does not provide much damage, and for me is a low priority to crown as well. Now, if you're constantly relying on Zhongli's shield like I do, I see no problem in crowning Zhongli's shield. Just know that your DPS output is going to be more or less the same. Now, if you notice, I haven't put Kazuha, Venti, or Sucrose on the list, and for that reason, I believe it is because Venti, Sucrose, and Kazuha are enhancing characters and won't gain much from crowning their abilities. They will apply usefulness in your team comps when they reduce resistances of certain enemies. So in my opinion, I wouldn't recommend crowning any of them. They're all low priority units because you're not focusing on them to deal damage. You're only focusing on them to swirl elements and infuse them with enemy characters to lower their resistances. If I left out and your favorite DPSs or supports, know that I didn't see them as meta, or I just forgot about them because I only main Xiao. Make sure to leave your favorite DPS character in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.